They're
Sure.
it's not bail out anybody, but we've got the majority of people sitting in jail can't afford $2,500. That's the average bail the bail project pays. And so it's not like we're paying
Yeah, you're not getting like
$800,000.
accused serial killers or murderers out, right?
And listen, we have a whole system. If you go visit prisons, you're like, you cannot believe the conditions people live in. There's nothing about rehabilitation in our space. And so I'm also on the board of the Reform Alliance with Jay-Z and Michael Rubin and Bob Kraft, working on probation and parole laws. We just passed a huge law in Pennsylvania. Shout out to the Reform Alliance. I've got our own group of fellows. They're called Galaxy Leaders, where we have now 50, 60 people that work in the field that we've given fellowship, 2-year fellowships to. And so literally I spent a huge amount of my time and resource trying to change both the narrative and the actual laws. We've got a long way to go there.
Yeah, it sounds like a good cause, Mike. Let's shift gears again. I want to go back to macro and crypto. You talked about the Fed too. It's been a big year in rates, right, and in Fed policy.
Yeah, listen, the Fed right now.
Have they regained their credibility? Do they have credibility? How would you rate the Fed this year?
So the hardest part about when people talk about central banks is it's a two-person part. And is your dollar plus its 5% interest going to keep up? Or are you going to need to have some other assets? It's not just Bitcoin. Like, it's Bitcoin. I think silver and gold will go. It's other cryptos. It's equities. So equities go when they debase currency because everything is worth less. So the price goes higher.
Yeah, it's like the base asset loses value. So anything you price in it should be worth more. Let's talk a little bit more about Bitcoin and macro. You talk to a lot of macro traders. You are a well-known macro trader. You mentioned you and Dan Moorhead did this trade years ago. Almost nobody else did, or you guys were probably a relatively small group chat back then. The group chat has expanded now, has it not?
Yeah, listen.
You're not alone anymore.
What's wonderful about certainly Bitcoin is it's now just on the macro dashboard. I'm sure when I walk into any macro trader, they've got crude and 10-year and gold and silver and probably the corn price and 10 years and JGBs and Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And so it's a macro asset. Most of those funds play it through CME futures. Some, we had a big account recently buy a whole bunch of Bitcoin Cash with us. That makes me really happy.
You mean spot Bitcoin?
Spot Bitcoin.
Yeah, not Bitcoin Cash. The altcoin. Yeah. Spot Bitcoin. Yep.
Spot Bitcoin with us. I think when the ETF shows up, that will be the weapon of choice.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's easy. It'll have liquidity. How much money he went to. I'm sure he passed away with the biggest smile on his face. He was a great mentor to people. You don't have to be in every. You don't have to be in every asset, right? I wish I bought Apple stock 20 years ago. I remember buying a bunch of it. I sat with Peter Thiel one day, and he convinced this group of people that Apple, Microsoft, Google, these weren't tech stocks, they were monopolies. And I was like, it just clicked. Every once in a while, an idea clicks. And so I went out and bought a bunch of it, all of it. And it had a great year. They were probably all up 30% that year. And I sold them all. That was 2014.
Yeah. How has it done since then?
It's shocking. Once you realize something is a monopoly, you never sell it.
Yeah. Okay, just a couple more quick questions, Mike. One, just looking forward to the next year for Galaxy. And you founded Galaxy in 2018. Or well, I guess technically in 2017, but you guys really started 2018. It's been through a lot. I joined you 3 years ago. What are you looking forward for in the future with Galaxy?
Hire more guys like this guy. Listen, we started to be an institutional player in this space, and we were early. And, listen, I'm proud that we have survived. And
no, too. It's over-the-counter stuff is private.
But we are a go-to player in the derivative market.
And in spot, too.
We're a go-to maker in spot. Our credit business has been very well run. We want to expand that. We have an investment banking business no one else does. 2023 was an okay year. A lot of people wanted to get done deals, not a lot of deals getting done, not a lot of capital coming into the space. A lot more optimistic for 2024. Our asset management business went from, $1.7 billion to $5 billion in assets, winning the FTX mandates. That was a big deal for us emotionally because, the group looked at everybody and they said, these guys know what they're doing. I always wanted us to be the smart guys in the room. We've hired a lot of smart guys. And, I kind of think now is our time. as institutions move in, we need to be their player. And listen, we're not a Bitcoin only shop. As much as sometimes this guy loves to be, he's at his core a maxi.
You got to stay grounded, you know?
Yeah. Well, if it was a Bitcoin only shop, we'd have 50 people.
Yeah.
Not 465 people. For Galaxy to succeed, the election is in 11 months. And so then it takes 4 or 5 months. And so you're really mid 25. I think that's probably when you see these tokenization things start getting to critical mass. And so in some ways, 2024 is going to look a little bit like 2023, with the exception of this giant fire hose called ETF, bringing new capital into the space. And what that capital does is allows people the time to keep investing in the projects that actually change the way people live, right? Bitcoin can change the way people save and protect their wealth, but it's not going to change the way the financial system operates, right? That's the plumbing of all this decentralized DeFi stuff and quasi DeFi stuff, and stable coins and tokenized Apple shares and tokenized Stradivarius violins and tokenized whatever.
Right.
The Bitcoin and other money coming into the space allows me to hire people. It allows my peers to hire people.
Right.
It gives us breathing space to actually build out this revolution. And so bronze medalist in the Olympics, was the best in the world. It's a long and painful story of him not being an Olympic medalist. They both were national champions at Iowa. They're the two guys I met in my life that I think were born with the most testosterone. They are maniacs. I can only imagine them as kids. Anyways, they were the guys that gave me the mission to bring energy to wrestling. They're like, Novo, you got to bring energy to wrestling. And so I had an event. And next thing you know, I'm throwing it in the middle of Times Square and Grand Central Station. This organization I sort of beat the streets. I didn't start. I being a group of people started. Really blew up.
Yeah.
And so they sent me this for Christmas.
I love that.
Actually, they didn't send it. They would never. They're not the kind of guys that would, put their names on something.
Yeah.
They're a woman that works for their organization wanted to do something nice for me since I bought some theater tickets for some of their kids, and she had them sign these things and send it to me. So shout out Iowa wrestling, toughest state in America.
Is that the best? Are they top?
They're not the best. They're traditionally one of the 2 or 3 best programs in the country. They used it from Chumbawamba. I get knocked down, but I get up again. Ain't nobody gonna hold me down. That's a wrestling ethos.
I think it should be our ethos too, Mike.
Chumbawamba Galaxy theme song.
Mike Novogratz, CEO, Chairman of Galaxy Digital. Thank you so much, Mike.
Alex, thanks a ton.
That's it for this week's episode of Galaxy Brains. Thank you to my guest, Mike Novogratz, founder and CEO of Galaxy. And again, to all of our listeners for following and being with us this year through what has really been a crazy and wild run. I know next year is going to be huge for Bitcoin and for cryptocurrency and for Galaxy. I hope you'll join us to keep following on Galaxy Brains. Have a great weekend.